Hello, and welcome back to another episode in the Rethinking Cyber podcast series with me, Rebecca McLaughlin-Eastham. Today, my special guest is Sheema Gupta, the Director of Child Protection and Migration at UNICEF, an organisation she's been with for more than 25 years as a representative in 8 countries, including conflict zones. Sheema specialises in psychological support programmes, providing counselling, safe shelter and socialisation for children in emergency and war-torn zones. Today we discuss the risks facing children in cyberspace and how parents, educators and societies can best protect them. Sheema, it's great to speak to you. Thank you for joining me from New York today.
Lovely to speak to you as well, Rebecca. So happy to be here.
Sheema, tell me, what do you see as the most pressing risks children face in today's cyber landscape, and how might these threats evolve with emerging technologies in the near future?
Rebecca, the first thing that comes to mind when we talk about this is how easy it has become for perpetrators to reach children. So obviously, we all know violence against children is not a new phenomenon, but digital technologies have stripped away many of the protections that we once relied on. So today, what we see is harm can occur anywhere and it can be relentless. So for example, before, bullying that would happen in school would end at the school gate. But now that same bullying follows children into their bedrooms, through their phones, with really no safe space for the child to retreat to. So there's been a lot of research on this, as you know, and we've seen through research that these risks are not isolated or confined to certain countries. They're happening everywhere. And the problem is they're accelerating. And just to give you an example, UNICEF did a U-Report poll in the Philippines, and it showed that about 85% of young people polled had encountered unsafe content or behavior online. 85% of them. And more than half said it happens regularly. Many didn't know where to turn to for help, and only about 13% were aware of national helplines. And then there's another growing risk, and that is financial sexual extortion and grooming through gaming platforms and social media. We've seen heartbreaking cases where children are coerced into sending images or money under threat. And again, there's a research that UNICEF has conducted. It estimates that 1.6 million children who use the internet across 19 surveyed countries faced some form of sexual extortion online in just 1 year. I think what we also have to be prepared for is looking ahead. What do we see? We see emerging technologies like generative AI are amplifying these risks. AI is already being used to create we all know this, fake sexualized images of real children, and deep fake tools are becoming more accessible. Our research warns that as AI adoption accelerates, we need urgent safeguards to prevent these abuses. We've just launched updated guidance on AI for children, with additions on some of the key threats, including AI companions used by children and AI-generated child sexual abuse material.
What capacity gaps currently leave children most vulnerable to cyber risks?
The lack of awareness among parents, among teachers, and even children themselves. Many parents tell us they feel totally unprepared to guide their children online. And why? They don't always understand the apps and platforms their children use. And in some cultures, talking about issues like sexual abuse feels uncomfortable, or it's even taboo, and talking about it with your kids completely unheard of. Children often end up navigating the digital world alone. without the guidance they need. So to close this gap, one of the things we're doing, with thanks to the support from the Global Cybersecurity Forum, is we're working with the University of Oxford and Parenting for Lifelong Health to integrate online safety into existing parenting programs. This means giving parents practical tools and the confidence to talk openly about online risks. The second gap is reporting and response. Even when children experience online abuse, we know this, very few tell anyone or use hotlines. So the GCF support has enabled UNICEF to step up its work with Child Helpline International. Child Helpline International and children's helplines have been around a long time. But what GCF support has done is enable us to improve the capacity of 30 child helplines around the world in their response to online harms. Finally, the other gap is design and accountability gap. This gap lies with technology companies. Parents and children can only do so much if products themselves are unsafe. There are too many products which are built without thinking about child safety. And they should be transparent. They should publish clear reports on how their products impact children's rights online. And regulations can help by requiring these systemic protections, not just leaving safety to families alone.
Sheema, give me your top tips. What's your best advice for how we can strengthen digital literacy and safety skills amongst children, parents, and educators?
So it really starts with having conversations. So even if parents aren't tech savvy, what matters most is building open, trusting relationships with their children. When children know that they can share without fear of judgment, they're far more likely to speak up if something goes wrong. And again, with the GCF support, UNICEF's been expanding the reach of our digital parenting content on our global parenting hub. If you're listening and you want something practical, I'd encourage you to check out unicef.org, parenting, digital parenting. And one post that I love is very simple. It gives 5 simple tips. Number 1, set clear ground rules. Talk openly about who your child interacts with online, what they share, and, have an easy conversation on this. Second, use technology to protect them. Help them keep personal information private and check privacy settings together with them. Third, spend time with them online. Join them in positive online activities and model kindness in digital spaces. Fourth, model healthy habits. Show what responsible sharing looks like, including what you post about your child. And fifth, let them have fun and express themselves. The internet can be a space for creativity and learning when guided well. I think schools can also play a huge role. UNICEF works with ministries of education to integrate media and information literacy into curricula, just so children learn to question what they see online, protect their privacy, and recognize harmful behavior. We also help update anti-bullying efforts to cover online harassment and give educators the training and resources that they need. And then finally, I think the third group, and this is a very important group, are the peer educators. And children are most likely to go to their peers. And so what we are seeing is peers are making a huge difference because young people listen to each other and they think they know best. So in Indonesia, there's a very good story of a hearing impaired adolescent named Shelda, who's become a champion for internet safety. She's teaching children with disabilities in her community how to navigate the internet safely through a series of workshops. Her passion and commitment earned her a place at a 2024 Global Ministerial Level Conference on Ending Violence Against Children in Bogota. We have the case of a In Pakistan, the FACE initiative, which is a forum for adolescents and children's empowerment, they've trained youth leaders to run sessions on child online protection. One of the community centers has 15-year-old Shazeb, who didn't just attend training, he took the message to schools and to his community, helping children and parents understand how to stay safe online. And then he didn't stop there. He went on and used this in his own social media platforms to share tips far beyond his own district.
Zooming out from a domestic frame, what national measures are most effective in protecting children in cyberspace?
Children live integrated lives. And this is why the risk in one space often spills over to the other. What's a good example of what we mean by a whole of society approach? One is governments need to update laws so that there are no gaps and they align with international standards. They need to build capacity for law enforcement, social services, and the judiciary so that they can respond effectively when harm occurs. They also need to go on and engage the private sector to implement child safety standards and be accountable for the millions of children who are using their platforms. And then bringing it down to empowering families and children through the education and support services so that they know how to stay safe and where to turn for help.
Sheema, how can global cooperation and capacity building better safeguard children online?
What we see is a predator in one country can easily reach a child in another in a matter of seconds. So that's why what's extremely important is global cooperation. Not only is it important, it is absolutely essential. At UNICEF, we work closely with organizations like the We Protect Global Alliance, which brings together governments, tech companies, and civil society to share best practices for tackling online child sexual exploitation and drive coordinated action. We also collaborate with Interpol to strengthen national law enforcement capacity to tackle online crimes against children. Global cooperation is really also about sharing these solutions. What works in one country can actually inspire another. So in Africa, UNICEF and GSMA have recently launched a multi-stakeholder regional task force. And this is so exciting. It's the first of its kind on the continent. And then we also need multi-country evidence to guide action.
What role do you believe UNICEF and similar organizations can play in strengthening child protection systems?
We see children are often left out of conversations about cybersecurity and safety. But then these children are active users of technology. And so they must be front and center when decisions are made about how cyberspace is designed and regulated. That's a core role for UNICEF and for similar organizations, keeping children on the agenda and amplifying their voices. We also act as conveners. Online safety isn't just the job of a cybersecurity ministry or a tech regulator. It touches child protection, justice, education, health, and all of this requires a collaboration with the private sector, with academia, and with civil society. And then UNICEF helps governments and companies understand children's experiences through research and data. And we translate that into practical tools like policy guidance, training, and other resources.
Lastly, Sheema, how can schools, communities, and the private sector collaborate to promote child cyber safety, including through safety by design approaches?
There are so many ways of visioning this, right? If we were building a playground, to make it safe, we would need well-designed equipment. That's the technology design. We would need clear rules, and that's the policy. And then we would also need adults who know what to do if a child gets hurt, and that is training and support. So tech companies have a huge role to play. Safety by design means making the product safer right from the start. So what are those? You could turn off risky features for younger users and making reporting tools easy to find and responsive. Families and educators, as we talked about, also need some very clear practical guidance and spaces where they could share tips and learn about these new technologies. All of these conversations build trust and resilience. When schools, families, and companies work together, we have the potential to create a digital ecosystem where children are safe and they can safely explore, learn, and thrive.
And there we have to leave our conversation, Sheema, but thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you so much for helping us take this message to, families, schools, governments, everybody, because it's so important to protect children online and offline.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Sheema Gupta of UNICEF. For more episodes in this series, just head to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Thanks for listening, and until next time, take care.